So, ladies and gentlemen, we actually have a couple of updates on the West Virginia chemical spill disaster that we covered last week. The spill which contaminated the water supply of 300,000 people over some 9 counties or so. So, here's the deal. On Saturday, the last of the do not use water bans were lifted by the water company, West Virginia American Water. And so theoretically after that, after flushing their systems, homes should be able to use the water supply again, according to the water company. However, the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control, said, hold on a second, until all traces of the chemical MCHM were gone, pregnant women shouldn't use or drink the water. And while there were less than 1 part per million, there were still traces of the chemical in the water supply. Some other healthcare professionals chimed in and said, well, if it's not safe for pregnant women, it's also probably not safe for small children to use, so probably children shouldn't be drinking or bathing or doing anything in this water either. So again, the question goes to, what's all the confusion? Is it safe to use or is it not safe to use? And the truth is, at this point, we're still actually not sure. And why is that? Well, reading from Think Progress, quote, of primary concern is the fact that it is still unclear what exactly spilled and whether or not the proper tests have been conducted. Crude MCHM is a mixture of 6 chemicals, but only the pure form of the main ingredient, 4-MCHM, has been studied. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention set the 1 part per million threshold based on one study of 4-MCHM conducted by Eastman Chemical Company in 1991, end quote. In 1991, we're talking about one study about 1 part of this chemical cocktail that was done in 1991, and this is just one aspect of it. Going back to Think Progress, this is an environmental consultant said, quote, if crude MCHM is truly what leaked, it's possible that we don't even know which of this cocktail is the most harmful. We could have set a threshold based on the wrong one. We may be testing the wrong one. End quote. So, again, because of the secret, unregulated nature of this chemical, the fact that this chemical was grandfathered in, all of which we talked about on the show last week, the truth is scientists actually might be testing the wrong bloody chemical in the water supply. And so in addition to this, after flushing their homes, many homeowners have been complaining that they still had the odor of the chemical. It actually has a strong smell like licorice, and homeowners and people were still smelling this chemical well after flushing their systems. People are still smelling it in their water, but the water company says, hey, the water is safe. So when the governor of West Virginia, his name is Governor Earl Ray Tomblin, when the governor was asked if the water was safe to use, he gave, well, frankly, a pretty ridiculous and hysterical answer. When asked if the water was safe to use, the governor of West Virginia said, quote, it's your decision. If you do not feel comfortable drinking or cooking with the water, then use bottled water. End quote. How about that? How about that? It's your decision. It's your decision. He's the bloody governor. Is the water safe for your citizens or isn't it? It's a very simple question. Is the water safe? And the governor says, meh, it's up to you. Who am I to say? I don't know. You know, it's your call. What kind of laissez-faire BS is this? Unbelievable. He actually went on to say, quote, I'm not going to say absolutely 100% of everything is safe, but what I can say is if you do not feel comfortable, don't use it, end quote. Pretty simple, huh? If you don't like it, don't use it. He also said several times, I'm not a scientist. No kidding, Sherlock. You're not a scientist. I'm shocked, really. By the way, folks, I know he sounds like a laissez-faire Republican. This guy's actually a Democrat. He's a Democrat, however, who just happens to love the coal industry. He loves the coal industry. And this is a guy who's railed against regulation all types of regulation of the coal industry. So that's who we're dealing with here. He's a Democrat who's embracing his inner libertarian, his inner Ayn Rand here. Yes, science isn't going to determine whether or not the water supply is safe. Consumers will. If consumers feel that the water is safe, they will use it, and if they don't, they won't. The free market will determine whether the water is safe. Unbelievable. He was actually asked if he personally was drinking the water. A pretty good question, and the governor's actual reply to whether or not he himself was drinking the water was, "I drink it occasionally." That's what he said. He said, "I drink it occasionally." All of a sudden, the governor's turned into Dos Equis guy here. "I don't always drink water, but when I do, I drink the contaminated water of West Virginia. Stay polluted, my friends." That's what this guy is. He's a joke. This guy's a joke. Unfortunately, folks, this is not the only update when it comes to West Virginia and the chemical spill. On Friday, Freedom Industries, which is, of course, the ironically named company responsible for the chemical spill itself, Freedom Industries filed for bankruptcy in an attempt to block lawsuits that are coming their way. Yeah, real classy, Freedom Industries. They have the freedom to avoid paying for the mess that they made. And it's a big mess. And let's think about this here. You have 300,000 people without water, people getting sick, going to the hospital. You have businesses shutting down. You have workers losing days of pay. All of that is stuff that Freedom Industries should theoretically be liable for, and including paying for the cleanup itself. I actually think Progress reports that West Virginia's capital city of Charleston lost more than $120,000 in tax revenue over the course of the week following the disaster. That's just one city over a few days. That's because of this spill. But again, the problem is our bankruptcy code. Thank you very much, groups like ALEC and all the right-wingers. Our bankruptcy code in the United States, it just so happens that it forbids anyone from filing a lawsuit against someone who's already filed for bankruptcy. How convenient! How convenient for Freedom Industries. And many people over the weekend posted about how Freedom Industries might get off for paying for their crimes through bankruptcy, but anyone with a college debt can't have that debt taken away through bankruptcy because of the law signed in that makes college debt not able to be expunged. So a corporation can spill chemicals into a river and pollute the water of 300,000 people, and they can theoretically file bankruptcy to get away from that, but a college student who has $100,000 in debt can't get that expunged because when he got out of college, he can't find a job. It's really fair. It's wonderful. Isn't capitalism great? So corporations aren't just people. They aren't just people, my friends. No. They're more than people. They're better than people. They're more important than people. Raw Story actually reports that in addition to avoiding the lawsuits, Freedom Industries owes $3.6 million to creditors and $2.4 million in back taxes to the IRS. I know, you're shocked. Freedom Industries didn't pay their taxes. They were exercising their freedom to not pay taxes, I guess. So even more into this, what's even worse than the bankruptcy itself is how they're actually trying to do the bankruptcy. Chris Hayes has a really amazing report from MSNBC on how Freedom Industries, the company, is owned by a man named Clifford Forrest. So Clifford Forrest on Friday declares bankruptcy for the company. Another company comes in and it lends money to Freedom Industries to restructure its assets. What happens then is that company gets essentially first dibs on their assets. That company is called Mountaineer Funding, LLC. That company came into existence on Friday, the very same day that Freedom Industries declared bankruptcy. Mountaineer Funding, LLC is owned by, you guessed it, none other than Clifford Forrest, the same exact owner of Freedom Industries. What it is it's a shell company, which very well may allow Forrest to keep a good deal of his assets that he should have lost in the bankruptcy. All the while, he also is probably going to get off from avoiding to pay the cost and liability of his spill. He'll probably, he's probably going to end up paying something. He'll probably pay something, but not nearly what he deserves to pay, and not nearly what the victims of his spill deserve to get. As I said a couple seconds ago, isn't capitalism grand? We'll be right back.